Imagine driving up and down the shoulder of I-20 in the Alabama heat for 5 hours. That's exactly what Jesse Dixon and two of his friends were doing Saturday afternoon, May 16th, 2026. But they weren't just guessing where to look. They were holding onto a shred of hope, chasing a cell phone ping to 23-year-old Karen Hollis's cell phone. Then right around 5 p.m. near Knoxville, that's just 2 miles past the Tuscaloosa County line, they saw it. A large black garbage bag sitting in the tall grass, only feet from the pavement. Jesse stopped the car, he got out, and as he walked closer, he saw her feet. Days later, a man would make an admission to police about why her body was left there in the first place. This is 6 on Your Side Investigates. Each week we take you inside local cases and the courtroom with records and data, no speculation. I'm your host, Jen Horton, an investigative reporter with 20 years on the job, covering violent crime and corruption right here in Alabama. Let's break down this case together. Karen Deanne Hollis was only 23 years old. She was about 5'6", weighed over 100 pounds, bright-eyed, strawberry blonde hair. She lived with a condition that police said could impair her judgment. And on Friday, May 8th, she just vanished. The last time anyone saw her alive was right at midnight on May 8th near 43rd Avenue in Northport. Because of her medical condition, her family and Northport police immediately knew they could not afford to wait. Behind the scenes, this was not treated like a typical missing persons case. Right away, investigators suspected foul play. The Northport police brought in the Tuscaloosa County Violent Crimes Unit. And for a solid week, it was all hands on deck. Drones in the air, K-9 units on the ground. But West Alabama is rural, and the search came up empty. But here's what the public did not know. Investigators had already found Karen's car, and it was not at her apartment. It was abandoned 10 to 12 miles away from where they would eventually find her body. Second, they had a digital trail. Captain Jack Kennedy would later share that they had a massive amount of phone data. They were tracking a cell phone signal's exact path from Northport straight down the interstate and right into Greene County. That digital trail is exactly what led Jesse Dixon and his friends to that stretch of interstate on May 16th. Jesse told WBRC reporter Brian Henry, "Something inside me told me to go help because our family didn't stay down this way." Less than 24 hours later, Jesse made that 911 call from the side of I-20 and police moved in. They arrested 40-year-old Tuscaloosa man named Randall Lyndall DeJourney. Police had actually been watching him as a person of interest all week. The initial charge, abuse of a corpse. Under Alabama law, that's a Class C felony. DeJourney was booked into the Tuscaloosa County Jail on a $15,000 bond, and for 2 days, everyone was asking the same question. If they found her body in a bag, why wasn't he charged with her death? Investigators were waiting on the medical examiner's office. Tuesday morning, May 19th, the autopsy results came in. Karen didn't die from an accident. She died from suffocation. Her death was then officially ruled as a homicide. The medical examiner believes she died very early on May 8th. That's the day she went missing. With that, the state then charged him with murder. On May 26th, Randall DeJourney walked into a Tuscaloosa courtroom for an Aniah's Law hearing. Aniah's Law allows suspects to be held on no bond for specific felony counts other than capital murder. We sat in that courtroom as Circuit Judge Alan May heard the state's case. First, investigators established that DeJourney was with Karen Hollis at her apartment on May 8th. That's when she vanished. They were acquaintances. Hollis lived in the same apartment complex as one of DeJourney's friends. Second, security footage from the apartment complex showed DeJourney leaving, then returning later. But when he returned, he was carrying a blue plastic tote, a tote that contained a large black garbage bag. Third, after the arrest, DeJourney admitted to police that he placed Karen's body inside a plastic bag, and he did that because she had hung herself. But the physical evidence strongly contradicted his story. The prosecution revealed that forensic teams found blood inside Karen's apartment bathroom. The medical examiner testified that Karen's injuries were entirely inconsistent with hanging. Her actual cause of death was asphyxiation by suffocation. Finally, the state introduced DeJourney's criminal history, revealing a pattern of violence, including a prior arrest for domestic violence strangulation in Escambia County, Florida. Based on this evidence, Judge Ellen May denied bond. On July 1st, 2026, a grand jury handed down a 2-count indictment against Randall DeJourney. Count 1, murder for intentionally causing the death of Karen Deanne Hollis. Count 2, abuse of a corpse for sealing her in a trash bag and leaving her body on the shoulder of a highway. Karen Hollis's life was ended in the dark, her body left in the tall grass along an Alabama interstate. But because of a digital signal and a few people who refused to stop searching, she was eventually found. Now Randall DeJourney waits for trial in jail with no bond. We will continue to track this case as it moves toward trial in Tuscaloosa County. Thanks for staying with us through this episode. We want to know what you want to see in the podcast. Email me at jennifer.horton@wbrc.com. Put podcast in the subject line. And if this is the kind of reporting that's important to you, please go ahead and follow and subscribe. We don't want you to miss anything. We'll see you right back here next week. Goodbye for now.